Good morning. My name is Lori Lacara, and I'm the Marketing and Community Outreach Manager here at Hillside Memorial Park. On behalf of Paul Goldstein, our General Manager, and the entire organization, we'd like to welcome you to our annual Kever Avot service. Unfortunately, Paul Goldstein is unable to join us this year due to a medical issue, but he has asked that I extend his wishes to each of you and your families for a happy and healthy new year. Shana Tova. Throughout the year, we see many families come and visit the graves of loved ones and friends. They come to remember the lives and legacies of the ones they have loved and lost. Kever Avot is the one time during the year when we come together as a community to reflect and honor those we have lost, reinforcing the truth that none of us can live without loss, and knowing there is comfort in communal grieving. Today's service is both special and bittersweet, as Rabbi Rosov will lead us in his 31st and final Kever Avot service. Rabbi Rosov, we thank you for your kindness and generosity, your insight and wisdom, your time and dedication to all of us here at Hillside, the congregants and staff of Temple Israel of Hollywood, and all of the families and members of the Jewish community whose lives you have touched. I would also like to personally thank all of you, our families and guests, along with the clergy and musicians, for joining us here today at Hillside Memorial Park. And we would like to welcome cantor Jenny Asher, who will be performing today in the absence of Linda Cates. And now it is my honor and my privilege to introduce Rabbi John Rosov to lead us in today's service. Rabbi Rosov? Oh, okay. So as soon as they're done singing.
Sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu
Shana Tova to you all. Each of us is here today to remember, to recall lost loves who preceded us to the grave. The Hasidim of Kotsk used to recount paradoxical statements to describe the reality of theirs and our lives. They said, there's nothing straighter than a bent ladder, there's nothing blacker than white shrouds, and there's nothing more whole than a broken heart. The Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, reminded his Hasidim that God wants us to be whole, that the Holy One does not inhabit a blemished sight. This too may appear to us as a paradox, but the Alter Rebbe taught that God inhabits a broken heart, which is the means to make the heart truly whole. As Leonard Cohen put it, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. On page 6 of your prayer books is Psalm 16, Shiviti.
We are on page 7. Please join me. We turn our thoughts to yesterday, to a world that lives only in our memory. As we recall the days gone by, we know the past is irretrievable. Yet through the gift of memory, we captured treasured moments and images. We are thankful for the happiness we knew and those no longer here, with whom we lived and laughed and loved. We praise the eternal wellspring of life, who links yesterday to tomorrow. We affirm that despite all the tragedy bound up with living, it is still good to be alive. We understand that there can be no love without loss, no joy without sorrow. May we have the courage to accept that all of life, the love and the loss, the joy and the sorrow, as we remember. Eternal One, how insignificant we are in your sight, and how minute in your presence. You are creator of a universe so vast that our effort to conceive it overwhelms the mind. The keenest eye scans but a corner of it. The rays of light we see today began their journey long before we came to be. Counted from first creation, the earth we live on was born but yesterday, and we made our appearance on it only a moment ago. When we consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what are we that you are mindful of us? The eye is never satisfied with seeing. Endless are the desires of the heart. We die with half our desires satisfied. Like Moses on Mount Nebo, we behold the promised land from afar, but may not enter it. Like children falling asleep over their toys, we relinquish our grasp on earthly possessions. Only when death overtakes us, the wealthy and poor, the strong and the feeble, the known and the unknown, the wise and the simple, the grave levels all distinctions. All of us are equal in death. That's a good signal that if you haven't turned off your cell phone, you should do that now. Why don't you join me on the bottom of page 9? Adonai, what are we humans that you should know about us? We children of the flesh, that you should take account of us. A human being is like a momentary breeze, a person's days as quickly passing as a shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You turn us to contrition, saying, do teshuvah, children of the flesh. What that we were wise and understood what awaits us in the end. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory will not descend along with us. Observe the innocent person. Take notice of the upright, for the end of such a person is peace. It can be trusted to redeem the souls of the righteous, and no one who trusts in God shall be confounded. And now we'll continue responsively. O Sovereign One, you have been our refuge in all generations. Before the mountains were born, or earth and the universe brought forth, from eternity you are God. For 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday when it is past, or as a watch in the night. Which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. The number of our years may be few or many, yet vain toil fills their span. For it is soon ended, and we fly away. So teach us to number our days, that we may grow wise in heart. Let your servants understand your ways, and your children see your glory. Let the beauty of our eternal God be with us, and may our work have lasting value. God, author of life and death, our wisdom is small, our vision short. One by one, our companions and dear ones passing along the road of life disappear from our view. We know that each of us will walk the same path to the doorway of the grave. We strain to see beyond the gate, but all is darkness to our mortal sight. and yet you have created us in your image and enabled us to share in your enduring righteousness. You have placed eternity into our hearts, have implanted within our souls a vision of eternal life. Into your hands we commit the spirits of our dear ones, for you keep faith with your children in death as in life. In us, O God, that we may meet with calm serenity the dark mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you are with us, a loving friend in whom we. You are the light of our life, our hope in eternity. For the first few lines of this translation on page 12, I'll be doing something a little bit different, and then we'll join together. When I feel weak, I lift my eyes to elevated places, to strong thoughts, to confidence, and to hope. What is the wellspring of my help and my comfort? My help comes from the oneness of all, the continuing creation of heaven and earth. God will not allow your foot to slip. Your guardian will not slumber. Behold, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Eternal is your keeper. God is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will protect your being. The Eternal will guard you, coming and going, from this time forth and forever.
Adonai roi lo echsar, inote sheyarbitzeni, al mi menuchot yanaleini. Nafshi yeshovev, yeshovev, yancheini b'magle tzedek, yancheini b'magle tzedek, למען שמו. Come kilech v'ketz al mavet, lo yarech, ki ata imadi shivtecha u'mishantecha ima
Please join with me in the translation of the 23rd Psalm on page 14. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. For centuries, Jewish sages and poets sought through story and legend to understand the transition through which our souls pass when our appointed time for our physical death arrives. Many stories and legends, in particular, have been written about the greatest of all Jewish leaders, Moses, who influenced the history of the world as no human being has done. In the book of Deuteronomy, it's written that God spoke to Moses and told him, "The time is drawing near for you to die. Call Joshua, your successor, and present yourselves in the tent of meeting, that I may instruct him." What did Moses feel then at 120 years, now a sign of blessing? Especially because Moses hadn't fulfilled the most cherished of his dreams, to enter the promised land. The Midrash, rabbinic commentary, and legend that developed around Moses' death are stories of great sadness and beauty, and touching, especially now at this time of Yizkor. What follows is my attempt to synthesize these tales and legends into a single portrait of a man at the end of his life, as he confronted what each of us will one day confront ourselves. Jewish sages left us a model of struggle and acceptance, hope, and faith. When the time came for Moses to die, he refused to accept God's decree. Moses put on sackcloth, threw himself upon the ashes, and prayed not less than 1,500 prayers for the annulment of the sentence against him. He drew a circle around himself, stood in the center of it, and said, "I will not move from this spot until judgment shall have been suspended." A pity. The great Moses, the righteous one who led his people from slavery, the only human ever to come face to face with God, the lawgiver, the leader of a nation, didn't accept his mortality. Moses' accomplishments were many. He'd molded the people of Israel into a nation. He was the most powerful of Israel's leaders. He hardened his people into an army against which the most warlike tribes quailed and walled cities collapsed. Moses wasn't only revered and loved by all humankind, the angels, his spiritual peers, loved him. Knowing that Torah would say of him that there has not arisen a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, he strove to refuse the Creator's will. Fearing the Almighty's wrath, heaven and earth trembled and said, "It must be God's wish to destroy this world and create a new universe because Moses persists in refusing his fate." But all were comforted as a quiet and gentle voice called from heaven, saying, "God's wish to destroy the world hasn't yet come. Moses will certainly die." But Moses didn't hear. He continued to plead with the Almighty, but God refused to move from the decree that the Eternal had already sealed. God tried to explain, "Moses, my dearest friend, shepherd of Israel, you must die, for otherwise your people will turn you into an idol. There is but one God, and it is I. You cannot attain immortality, for you are human and a little lower than the angels." Moses pleaded, "God, don't you trust me? Haven't I proved my worth? Haven't I destroyed the golden calf?" God reasoned with Moses and asked, "Moses, who are you?" "The son of Amram." "Who was Amram?" "The son of Yitzhar." "And Yitzhar, the son of Kehat." "And Kehat, who was he?" "The son of Levi." "And Levi, the son of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham," and so on until they reached the first humans, Adam and Eve. "Where are Adam and Eve?" God asked. "Dead." "And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the matriarchs too?" "Dead," said Moses. "All dead." "Yes," said God, "your ancestors are all dead, and you alone wish to live forever?" But this wasn't enough for Moses. He persisted. "Each of my ancestors sinned. From Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, and Rebekah there came children who weren't of your people. Adam and Eve stole and violated your commandments. My children are your people, and I haven't defied you." God answered, "You killed an Egyptian. Who told you to do so?" Moses answered with insolence, "Yes, I killed one Egyptian. And you, did you not kill the firstborn?" God wasn't moved. Moses turned to others to appeal on his behalf, hoping to forestall his death through their prayer. He approached heaven and earth, the sun and the moon, the stars, planets, mountains, rivers, hills, and sea, but none would pray for him. They responded alike, saying, "All go into one place, all are of the dust and return to the dust again." Moses felt utterly alone, without help or sympathy. He couldn't understand how he, the greatest of all people, could be refused. He bargained with God, much as a child does who's rebuked a first time and settles in to try again. "Let me live like an animal and eat the grass of the field, so that I may live and be able to see the land of my dreams, the promised land that you pledged to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." God reminded Moses that humans weren't meant to be animals. A person can never be relieved of mind and conscience. God wouldn't permit Moses to humiliate himself. Moses' passions for life was overwhelming. Perhaps because of this, we should be troubled. Why should Moses be so unreasonable at the inevitable, and this from a man of such wisdom and understanding? Yet can we blame him? We rationalize death as a part of the life process, but when it stares us in the face, we resist, failing to accept that to be human means that we're vulnerable and flawed. Only the spirit is pure and eternal. The body withers and dies like the grass of the field. Moses resisted accepting that one day he must return to the dust. We shouldn't be too critical, for after all, this was the first time Moses had ever faced death. Eventually, he understood. It was God who taught him to accept the inevitable by forcing him to make an impossible choice. God said, "Moses, I registered 2 vows, one that you are to die, and the second that Israel is to perish. I can't cancel both vows. If therefore you choose to live, Israel must be ruined." Moses complimented God on his artful approach. At last, Moses understood that he held the choice between his life and the life of his people. The people would also come to understand that if such a man as Moses, who spoke panim el panim, face to face with God, and to whom God entrusted the teaching of Torah and the ordering of society, if he couldn't justify himself before the judge of the world, how much less so would an ordinary human being who hadn't studied Torah nor done righteous deeds justify him or herself before God? When Moses at last accepted what was to be, he prepared to pass the scepter of leadership on to his successor, Joshua. Moses' struggle, however, didn't end, proving the point that as long as we live, we yearn to remain alive. Moses was no different. His desire to prolong his days to see the promised land was so overwhelming that he was willing to be transformed into an animal or a bird. He even pleaded with God to have his bones transported across the Jordan, or his body cut up and have the limbs taken to the promised land. God's response was as it had been. This time, however, God became angry at Moses' refusal to accept his fate and decided to teach him a lesson. God had Moses enter the disciple Joshua's tent and bow for the first time before the new leader. One humiliation was added upon another. Joshua didn't notice Moses as he stood before him. When Joshua completed his discourse, Moses found that he hadn't understood a word, a thought, or a nuance. His despair was now complete, and he wished to die, as he thought, 1,000 deaths rather than one jealous moment. The story of Moses' last moments of life is one of hope and faith and beauty. As Moses wandered into the wilderness to die, God instructed him to lie down, cross his arms over his chest, and to close his eyes. Then the eternal God's lips rested upon Moses' lips, And Moses' soul found shelter in God's breath and was swept into eternity. For us, the living, it's now only memory that bridges the chasm between our lives and those who've preceded us to the grave. But like Moses, whose words and deeds are remembered, so too are each of our dear ones remembered, as we too will be remembered one day. We rise now and turn to page 19 for the Emelei Rachamim, the blessing that affirms that the souls of our beloved have indeed been gathered into the loving embrace of God. O compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, and full of compassion for those you bring into this world, grant perfect repose under the wings of your presence to our loved ones who have entered eternity. Master of motherly love, sheltered by your divine wings, may they join the company of the holy and pure who shine as bright as heaven. May their souls be bound up in the bond of eternal life. The eternal God is their inheritance. May they rest in peace.
Emelei Rachamim is going to be chanted by Cantor Patty Linsky.
Emelei Rachamim, shochein b'amromim, hamitzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina, im kedoshim utorim kizohar harakia mazhirim lenishmot yakirenu shehalchu leolamam ba'al harachamim yastirehim beseter knafav leolamim vitzror hachayim et nishmatan Adonai hu nachalatam v'yanuchu b'shalom al mishkavam v'nomar Amen.
The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 31. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach rutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach la'olam olamei omaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekut sham brichu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all the bereaved among us. And we say together, Amen.
Oseh shalom
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine on you and be gracious to you. May God lift up the divine countenance upon each of us, people of Israel and all of humankind, and grant us a year of good health and of peace. Amen. Please be seated. Gemar Chatima Tova, L'Shana Tova, V'techatevu, V'techatemu, a very good and sweet new year to all of you. This concludes our service.